What have you been up to? Anything
Maybe
good?
he'll make a grand appearance. Coop, what's up? It's Paul. How are you?
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
It's going good. Hey, Mike. Can you just hand me my phone? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I didn't get a chance to upload my smoke, so I'm just going to have to read them off my phone.
I did upload them, and I don't have a computer to read them from, so I will also be reading them from my
Your phone. Looks like Skip's doing some rearranging back there.
I think Skip's planting the flag of
It's a quick remodel. Todd, can I have my phone right there, please? Thank you.
Look at that. That was yummy. I guess we'll light up these Romacraft cigars. It seems fitting.
What's Romacraft?
We should ask someone what that is. Coop, what are you going to smoke this show?
what was that?
What are you going to smoke?
I just went with the Ortega we had on the list.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. Yeah, my Roma Craft is all at my cigar locker. I
Okay.
realized.
I say we just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for that. We had the guest change, and I didn't get a chance to think about what we were actually going to smoke on the show.
Are we waiting on Stogie Santa, or are we just going to...
No, Stogie Santa, I don't think is going to be able to make it.
Oh, we can't? Oh, that's a bummer. Tim is... Who knows?
Tim cannot make it either.
Oh, okay.
His family has strep throat.
Now.
Oh,
We got all the emails coming
I've been down that road many a time.
It's like all these emails. Almost mail Just before you.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's now going to fall on my laptop, right?
This would be the time, wouldn't it, Paul?
Smoke them if you got them.
He had one for me. I didn't get to it yesterday.
It's in my locker.
I don't know what the process is for that. I don't even
What was it?
Yeah, I only ended up doing three smokes.
Was it a Diamond Crown?
Yes, it is.
something for a customer, I know.
I'm doing well on that.
Yes, please. Thank you. All right, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Are we ready? Just waiting for the thumbs up. Well, Skip, are you there? I can't hear Skip.
I'm here.
Oh, hey, Skip. How are you? This is Paul Sidorian.
Trying to figure out how to turn my volume down.
Oh, are we loud in your ear? Is that it?
There we go.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna get started. Just waiting for the thumbs up from the audio-visual crew. Pay-per-view and LA Steve, as we call them.
I wish I had a love line. Audio's good, as far as I can tell.
Okay. We're recording audio.
Yeah, audio's been recording.
Yeah, if you could just shoot me an email of the address where we're here.
Can we just mute John Strand?
Dump him or mute him?
No, just mute him. We ready? We're recording?
No, let me mute John.
We're just going to mute John, and then we'll get started. Will and Skip, just hang on. I'm going to come on and introduce the show, and then we'll get right into it. We're going to jump right into your interview, Skip, okay?
Yeah. that's fine.
Yeah. Well, poor John, he's going to lose the call. But
That's okay.
still on, but
You should be able to just push the microphone button, and it mutes him, but...
yeah, well, the interface crashed. So
Oh.
he might have still been on the call, but it
I
wasn't
gotcha.
doing anything.
I got you. Are we ready?
You want me to call him back and just
Nope,
mute him,
we're
or-
good.
Okay.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Stogie Geek Show, part of the Paul.com all-day marathon for episode 350 in support of Wings for Warriors. You can go to wingsforwarriors.org. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, very excited to be on this edition of the Stogie Geeks. Which episode number is this? We got
70.
This is episode 70 of Stogie Geeks. Thank you. Mr. Mark Jr. is in the house to
What's
my
up,
left.
Paul? Glad
How's
to
it
be here
going,
today.
buddy?
Hanging in there, man.
Yes. We're adorning the new paul.com/Stogie Geeks shirts that we printed up with our patches and everything. Will, I have one for you. I'm going to send it. I haven't sent it out yet, but
They look sharp. I saw them on Paul.com earlier. Those,
Yes, thank you.
These are real sharp. Yeah,
yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
Mr. Will Cooper, thanks for joining us today. It's good to have you here as always. And we've got a very let's talk about what we're smoking. There was a little bit of confusion as we had this big episode going on, and we had some scheduling, not
Changes.
mix-ups, but yeah, there were scheduling changes. It was a change,
Yeah.
exactly.
A sub.
We had to have a sub. We weren't able to get our original guest, but Will is still kind enough to be smoking a cigar, Mr. Eddie Ortega, who'll be in a future episode of the Stogie Geeks. So Will, why don't you tell us a little bit, excuse me, about what you're smoking?
I'm smoking the Ortega Serie D Natural. This is the number 20, which wasn't actually the size we had picked. I just happened to grab the wrong size. This is the 6x60. Very good so far. Very good. Nice woody start to it. I admit when I had some of the smaller sizes, I wasn't quite as big a fan, but actually I'm a little surprised how well the 60's starting off.
Excellent. Now, Mr. Mark Jr., I handed you, in honor of our special guest that we have with us today, who we'll introduce in just one moment, we decided to light up some sticks from Roma Craft Tobacco,
Sure have.
as it were. So what is the one you lit up over there?
I have an Aquitaine knuckle dragger, which I think is a 4.5 by 52.
I'm
Or
sure
4
Skip
by
will-
52.
Skip
Yeah,
will
we'll let
correct us,
Skip
but-
get into
yeah.
it, but this has quickly turned into one of my favorites. It's a
And now, which
quite
one
an awesome little
is this?
cigar.
The
Cro-Magnon.
this is the Cro-Magnon
Yeah.
in the same size. It looks like a.
They're actually the same cigar. They have different wrappers, but we'll let Skip get to
Okay,
that.
well let's give it. And I smoked the Intemperance last
Yeah,
night in
that's
the
another
small
one of
size.
theirs,
Yeah, all great smoke.
All great stuff, yeah.
We have
Pretty interesting stuff. I'm excited to hear.
I've been
Skip
having,
on it,
I've been
yeah.
having a lot of fun smoking. This is my second one that I lit up. It's starting off very, very nice, and I enjoyed the one I had last night. So, I love these sizes. But we've actually got Skip Martin from Roma Craft Tobacco here with us. Say hi, Skip.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Thank you very much for coming on the show, Skip. I guess.
Do we get an intro theme song?
Yeah. Do you want an intro theme song? Do you want me to play "Tainted Love" a little more, or is that?
I
Probably
think
faint.
we were thinking. Mike and I were thinking about like this. I don't know if you can hear it, but
Oh, nice. Very nice.
yeah, my whole team's here.
Did you
Excellent.
borrow Jonathan Drew's iPod?
Yeah.
No, that's mine.
Who that?
Okay.
Drake, right?
So, Skip, how did you get started in the cigar industry?
Well, we started from the bottom. Now we're here, man.
Yeah, that song pretty much explains it for you, right?
Sí,
Yeah.
pero estamos en el momento para
So
hacer-
we, I mean, like, I don't know how much of the story you want. So one day I bought a cigar in the Military Circle Mall in Virginia Beach, Virginia. That was in 1990, 92-ish, I think. And now, I guess I was a cigar smoker for a long time, and all of my time through the Navy, I traveled a lot around the world and in corporate America as well. And when I started planning on getting out of corporate America, I wanted to work in the cigar business. I think like a lot.
What's going on? What happened?
We're having technical difficulties.
Skype was bugging out and having the wrong.
Uh-oh.
Did you guys drop me?
We did. We
Skip,
got you
still
back
there?
now, though.
You're back now. Sorry, continue.
That's okay. So, long story short, I opened up a cigar store. I did the cigar store for 3 years. The cigar store was hit by a hurricane. In the process of planning to reopen the store in Austin where I actually live, I wanted to start by making a cigar that we could sell in the store as a private label. I started working with Mike Rosales to do that in Costa Rica. We moved to doing it in Esteli, and came out with a cigar for my shop, and then it became very popular. So we decided to start the brand, and it kind of just went from there.
Now, is one of your current offerings, was that originally one of the store exclusives, or was that a different blend?
Yeah, so there was a blend, and there's some old videos online about this. Doc Stogie Fresh had a thing on it, and Jerry had a thing on it. The Escaparate Liga 3-1, which was a Connecticut broadleaf Maduro cigar that I had purchased from Christian Aroa as part of a 25 or 30,000 cigar buy of unlabeled kind of prototype cigars that were sitting in his aging room, and it became one of the most popular cigars that I've had. And when we started blending what ultimately became the Cro-Magnon, I was trying to replicate that blend and just wasn't successful to do it. And I think what we ended up with in the process of blending, in the process of learning about the tobaccos, trying to match something that I already enjoyed, turned out I think we created something I liked more. And then from there, we sold, at one point through Have a Cigar, we were selling, I think 10,000 Cro-Magnons a month, just on our website. And then we had a lot of retailers that had previously supported Mike through his brand, who had asked to carry that, the Cro-Magnon. And we let them know it wasn't a cigar to be carried for retail shops. It was just for me. And then one thing led to another, and we decided to add intemperance. We worked on those blends, came out with those, and then came out with the Aquitaine. So
Skip, now where do the names come from?
The names of the individual cigars, or the names of the brands?
The brand Intemperance, Cro-Magnon, and Aquitaine.
So Cro-Magnon is kind of came out of the fact that it really is about the kind of culture of cigar smoking. And we were kind of sitting around talking about how, we're about like a bunch of cavemen, but maybe a little more cultured than the first cavemen. And
just a little, right?
Then we had this whole 4-hour-long drunk discussion about how the Cro-Magnon was actually the first early modern human, and demonstrated, the recording of history and tribal rituals. And so then we started kind of working from that. Aquitaine is the region in France where the Cro-Magnon overhang was found. And intemperance comes from, it's the opposite of temperance, and the temperance movement is what started Prohibition. So I think the gist behind intemperance is this kind of modern temperance movement that we're facing in the United States against tobacco, and it's kind of our cultural, historical, political statement against that.
So tell me a little bit about the Cro-Magnon blend. What tobaccos make it up, and what was the blending process like?
So we started with the idea that we wanted to produce a U.S. Connecticut broadleaf Maduro with a Ligero priming wrapper, and then from there, what I really wanted to explore was the filler leaf that was available in Nicaragua. My partner in Nicaragua, at Nico Sueño, is a guy named Esteban Disla, and one of his favorite tobacco is a Ligero leaf from the Dominican, the Olor region in Dominican, a Criollo filler leaf, like a native Ligero priming of a plant in Olor, the Olor region of Dominican. So we kind of started with Esteli Ligero, a really high in texture, kind of high priming Esteli Ligero, and then with that Dominican Ligero, and then we just kind of filled in the Viso and Seco from there, which are both also from Nicaragua.
What was it like working with the U.S. Connecticut broadleaf Maduro? When a lot of cigar smokers don't often come to recognize some of the tobacco that comes from the U.S.
Yeah, well, so a couple things. So first of all, and I could be completely wrong, but based on my knowledge of tobacco, which is limited compared to some of the people in the business, but I think every strain of tobacco that exists that I'm aware of, at least in the Western Hemisphere, started from strains of tobacco, the Nicotina tabacciana that comes naturally from the U.S., from North America, and from Central America. One of the prominent strains in North America is the broadleaf strain, and for a long time has been very successfully grown in the Northeast, in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, River Valley. I love that leaf because it's, especially in the Ligero priming, it's very thick, and it's it's a lot of flavor contributed to the blend. But really what it contributes in the Maduro fermentation is it contributes to sweetness. So, that's always been one of my favorite wrapper leaves, going back to when I first started smoking cigars. It used to be a lot more popular than it is now. Recently what you've seen is a lot of people move away from Connecticut broadleaf into like Pennsylvania broadleaf or San Andreas Maduro. But to me, we were an American cigar, and I wanted to kind of start with the idea that we could use some tobacco from the United States, one that was one of my favorites. I also felt like it did a good job of balancing out the pepper strength of the Nicaraguan tobacco. And then the Cameroon was kind of like a, hey, let's try this kind of thing, because I've never, knowing the characteristics of Cameroon, you had the spiciness from the filler, you had the sweetness from the wrapper, and I wanted some of that kind of, sour, bitter flavor you get from the Cameroon. And the specific Cameroon that we found really cheap, because it was actual wrapper leaf that had been yielded out from another factory that they wanted to get rid of without having to sell it as, really cheap, short filler. So, it's kind of one of those things where the availability converged with, with something I was looking to try. So, it's a very interesting blend. And honestly, it's so full body. And by body, I mean flavor. I don't mean strength. It's not actually very high in nicotine, but it's so full body, and the bunch is so dense that when I smoke one, I feel like I don't need to smoke another cigar for a while. So really, what I've moved towards smoking more of the Arapiraca cigar blend of our own than I had of the Cro-Magnon. I usually try to kind of finish off a big meal or kind of a day of smoking with the Cro-Magnon. But it's a great blend. It's still my favorite in terms of all in how we came to it.
It's very unique. This is Mark. I would like to ask you about how you came about the sizes that you chose for your lines. They're not the sizes that you see typically in the industry now. And what brought you to those sizes that you chose?
So, it's probably not as complicated an answer as you would think. At the time, my favorite size was 5x56. In the cigar we were trying to replicate, I had smoked more of the 5x56, so that's what we actually blended it in.
Okay.
And then Mike wanted a 5 3/4 by 46 Corona, and at the time I didn't smoke very many cigars under 52, so I threw that one in there for Mike. And then we did a 6x60, which turned out to not have enough flavor, so we doubled the Ligero proportions in the blend, and it still didn't have enough flavor. It was very the wrapper piece of it was diluted, So we reduced it down to 4.5 inches because at the time the nub format was kind of popular, and I wondered, what it would taste like if it was the same ring gauge but it was shorter, and it actually, worked out. And then the knuckle dragger came from, at the time I was traveling a lot in Europe, and I was a real big fan of the Petite Robusto format in the Petite Edmundo and the Petite Romeo and Julieta that I was smoking in when I was traveling. So I wanted a size like that. And then I think that's all. The cranium was just because you got to have a Toro, right? So
now, Skip, I got to ask you about this size that you call the femur, which is listed here as a 10 by 133 and a third gigante.
Right.
What? Can
Super
you give us
gigante,
the background behind that one?
Yeah, so this is well into the factory being on it, on its way, and we really, I was at a dinner. I'd had a lot to drink. I asked one of the guys I was with was one of the guys who makes Flor de Cana in Nicaragua, and I asked him if he would make me a 15-liter bottle of Flor de Cana just to kind of display in my house there in Esteli. I wanted to have the biggest bottle of Flor de Cana in the world because at the time it seemed like a logical request. And he said that was a ridiculous idea. And I started to explain to him it wasn't ridiculous because if you looked at, double magnums of wine, if you looked at, these big kind of marketing display bottles that the vodka companies and everyone else has in the bars that, it's on one end, it's just kind of it brings attention to that brand. So if you're standing in a bar and you're about to order a martini and you see a, 4-foot tall bottle of Grey Goose, then you're like, wow, I guess I'll take Grey Goose, right? But if you're in a steakhouse and you're about to order a bottle of wine and you see this big, beautiful bottle of, Far Niente, and it's just a work of art, this humongous bottle of wine that is just as good as the other bottle. So I thought, if we wanted to have something to display in the stores, I thought it would be really cool to create a really large cigar that would be kind of the cigar store equivalent of that display item. The only thing is like the bottle of wine, I wanted it to be the exact same type box, the exact same process of making the cigar, the exact same quality of the tobacco. I didn't want a big, humongous shape that was filled with short filler. And so we started to figure out, okay, well, we got to have a mold. So we found a guy who would make us a 234 ring gauge mold, but he couldn't make it more than 10 inches long. So the first one we kind of took a pass at. That one really didn't work out. And then I said, well, if 10 inches is the limitation, what is the proportional ring gauge of a 10-inch cigar to, say, like the Mandible? And it turned out it was, 133 and a third. So we did a bunch of different tests to make sure that we could make it the same way that we make the Mandible, including we kind of developed this bunching process where two bunchers could bunch at the same time. And there's a video of that actually on my Vine and on the Half Wheel review. But, at the end of the day, it's just a demonstration of what, kind of the limitations of making cigars that we wanted to kind of test. And then it's also just something cool to sit in a cigar shop so people go, wow, look at this cigar. It's humongous.
Now, is it a smokable size?
I thought, I always said it was theoretically smokable, but I wasn't going to be the one to do it. Brooks from Half Wheel did smoke it successfully, I would say, but I don't know if you would. I don't think you can replicate the physics of smoking a normal sized cigar. I think it's really important to the flavor profile, to the blend, to the burn. I think it's important that you're able to create just the right amount of suction at exactly the right kind of intervals, the way you subconsciously do when you smoke a cigar. I don't think you can do that on a femur. So I don't think you could ever really smoke it the right way. But I think he did a pretty good job.
Nice. Yeah, I like the size choices. Now you have a lot of event only or store exclusives. Is there
What's going on, Coop?
is there a strategy behind that?
Yeah, so Mike Rosales just joined us.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Been
Hey, Mike.
officially blessed with my presence.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of those things, and there's a couple of reasons. There's the primary reason why we have event only cigars is a couple of things. One, I like playing around with other sizes in the factory. Two, we didn't want to give away our core line cigars at events as freebies. So, to incentivize people to come to events, one of the things that we would offer the retailers is the ability to purchase, with their discount, the ability to purchase these event-only sizes, so that if someone did come to one of our events, say like Outland Cigar or Blue Havana in Chicago, that they could purchase one of the cigars that they couldn't purchase somewhere else. Because that seems to be something I think more and more in our culture of cigar smokers, that people are interested in trying kind of new shapes of the blends that they already enjoy. And particularly for Cro-Magnon and for all of our cigars, because we don't change the blend across the different sizes, every size actually has a different flavor profile. Meaning, whatever the proportions are in the 5x56 Cro-Magnon, with the exception of the mandible, which has more Ligero, it's the exact same proportions in the other three, or four now that we got the Mode 5. So, the knuckle dragger has the exact same proportion as, say, the EMH. So when you smoke a knuckle dragger, the actual flavor profile is different because the proportions of tobacco are exactly the same, and the ring gauge changes the flavor profile. So when we make these event-only size cigars, like the Salomon for our field, or the the Atlatos or the Slobberknockers, you get a different smoking experience with basically the same tobaccos, but you get a different experience. The store exclusives were really something that stores were asking us for, because they wanted it to be able to drive sales into their stores, using the kind of core group of customers we've developed, saying, hey, if you wanted a box press, cranium, you can go to Tower Cigar in Sacramento, and they are the only people that sell that.
Right.
And that really kind of helped these retailers that are in these high tax entity places compete, I think, against some of the things. And we didn't invent that. I mean, Tower Cigar did a VI.
Yeah, a lot of manufacturers
before.
do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Smoke Inn is doing a lot of these kind of store exclusive type things. So
Skip, I wanted to ask you about the Intemperance line. It looks like someone took a razor blade and cut off like maybe a quarter to half an inch of the wrapper at the end of the cigar. Is there a strategy? What's the strategy behind that for our listeners? I think I know, but I want to ask you anyway.
Yeah, so it started. So what we call that is an exposed foot. It's as opposed to what you see like a shaggy foot. It's really just a little bit of the foot that's the wrapper that's cut back from the foot. There's a couple reasons why we do that. One, when we're blending in the factory, I do that intentionally. I'll cut back the binder by about an inch so that I'm smoking only filler. I'll cut back the wrapper so I'm smoking only binder and filler, and then when I get to maybe an inch and a half into the cigar, I'm smoking filler, binder, and wrapper. And the reason why I do that is so I think in some of the blends the wrapper is such an overwhelming flavor that if you're making when you're into the blending process and you're making small nuanced changes in the filler blend, proportion changes, it's hard to detect those changes easily if you're also at the same time getting all the wrapper and binder. So when in the cigars we use to blend, the first half inch is all filler, the second half inch is binder and filler, and the when you get to the an inch and a half, it's all three components. So knowing that, we also found out that the Arapiraca shrinks after it's drying, so because it's very hygroscopic. So the first samples we grew,
it's hydro what?
Water.
it's hygroscopic, so it's like it absorbs and releases humidity very quickly.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when it's wet and it's elastic while you're working it, what'll happen is when you cut the end of the cigar to size and you put it into aging, as it dries out naturally, it shrinks. So it creates that exposure on the foot anyway. And most people who work with Arapiraca who know this, a lot of people who work with Arapiraca work with cooked Arapiraca. So it doesn't have this effect. But when you work with natural Arapiraca, it does this. And people who work with natural Arapiraca would have told us that if we would have asked them. But what they do is they actually wait until the cigar's dry before they cut it to size for this reason. So when we found this, what we talked about was, hey, a couple things. One, wouldn't it be cool if the consumer could smoke a little bit of the cigar, just get the filler and the binder, and then hit the wrapper and see the shift in the flavor? Two, the end of it kind of looked like the root system of the tree of intemperance that's part of our branding. And then three, we don't have to go back and handle and cut cigars if we close the end with an exposed foot, because if it shrinks a little bit, nobody cares. So all those three things combined, we decided to start making the Arapiraca that way and the intemperance that way as well. And then the last thing is, at the time, we didn't have labels on the cigars, so it was an easy way for someone who picked up this cigar to see, oh, well, this is an intemperance. I know from the end of it, just characteristically, even without a label, this cigar is an intemperance.
Very nice. On the Aquitaine line, what was the driver behind the strength profile, the full strength and full flavor?
So we went to, so this is the way that happened. We ran out of broadleaf. I didn't know any better. I thought you could just go to the broadleaf, get in place, and buy more. And so when Mike and I went down there on this emergency kind of mission to find more broadleaf, we found out, oh, there's plenty of broadleaf to buy, but it's not going to be ready for a year. So at the time, that was kind of at the point where Mike and I decided to form Roma and form Nica Sueño with Esteban, and at that point in time, I said, well, we need to make another line of cigars that we can sell when we run out of Cro-Magnon, because we're just getting out of the gate here and we're not going to have a cigar for another year. So, A, we bought enough broadleaf where we'd never be in that situation ever again, and we've done so since. B, we started looking at Ecuador Habano and Ecuador Connecticut because it's very readily available for the intemperance line. Ecuador Connecticut was a no-brainer. Esteban had been working on something for a long time on a blend for that, and the first kind of sample he brought to Mike and I, because he said, I have a really strong feeling on what I want for this. The very first one he brought to us was awesome. And then we said, well, keep working on it. And then I think after 8 or 9 different blends, we went back to the first one because it was perfect. And because he had been working on it for years. So, and then when we started working on, and then we slapped the Ecuador Habano on that blend, and it didn't taste right at all. So we went back and looked at some more Ecuador Habano. And what I was really kept being drawn to was the Ligero priming, the really dark, heavy Ecuador Habano. And I said, this is great. Esteban said it's not very pretty. I asked Mike what he thought. He said, well, it's not very pretty, but it tastes great. And I said, well, what's more important? Mike and I said flavor. Esteban said flavor. So we bought a whole bunch of this really heavy Ecuador Habano. So, and by the way, kind of a side note, the way we got pointed to that tobacco was because we happened to be in the warehouse at the same time as EP Carrillo, and he said, hey, I'm looking at Ecuador Habano too, but there's this stuff over here in the corner that's amazing. It's just too heavy for me to use. So it kind of didn't hurt that, Ernie had kind of put his seal of approval on this tobacco, so I was already kind of in love with it before I even smoked it. But so we started blending with that. And when I went to Mike, I said, look, a couple of things. One, this is too heavy to be fermented very quickly. So it's going to be the same problem we have with broadleaf. It's not going to be ready for another year. So why don't we take the 600 pounds we can get right now, put it on the Cro-Magnon blend, make a second Cro-Magnon blend, call it something else, which we later came up with Aquitaine, and then use another different tobacco for intemperance that's more readily available. So we all agreed that that was a great idea because we had all this filler leaf for the Cro-Magnon blend, but no wrapper. So that tobacco just turns out to be very high in nicotine, and it's got a ton of flavor. So it actually ends up being a little bit stronger than the Cro-Magnon. Not as complex, I think, or not as full bodied, but maybe a little more nuanced, more complex and stronger. And then with the intemperance, Jonathan Drew had told me maybe a week before, whatever you do, never use Brazil Arapiraca. So of course the first thing I did was I went to find some Brazil Arapiraca, and then I fell in love with that. So
Very cool. Go ahead, Will.
So, Skip, there's a third wrapper that you've played around with on the Cro-Magnon, and that's the Candela for the Fomorian. Can you talk a little about that cigar and how that came about?
yeah, so I mean, it's real simple. We had an event coming up in D.C. on the St. Patrick's Day weekend. I kind of mentioned to Esteban that everybody has these, Candela cigars that come out that time of year. I wanted something kind of unique for this event because I'm a real big fan of those guys, of the DC, the B&B Cigar Club guys, Ashley and all them, Paul. So Esteban went and literally just got 5-pound sample of this really, really great Candela leaf, and I'd always felt like Candela worked best on stronger blends, like really strong peppery blends. Like my favorite Candelas have always been like the Camacho Monarch and the La Flor, because it's this bitter wrapper, but it's on top of this really strong, heavy blend. So we made 10 boxes, I think, for that event, and ended up taking 6 of them to the event, and I kept 4 of them. Mike and I did. So I don't know if we'll do that in the future. Historically, Candela has a very huge place in American cigar market. In fact, it's called the American Market Selection wrapper because it's so connected with the American cigar market. And I think it does work well with heavy Nicaraguan tobacco. I think the trick is whether people view it as gimmicky or not, because, even though we've just talked about the Femur and, the event-only cigars, I don't want us to be viewed as a gimmicky cigar company. We put a lot of focus and effort on our core cigar lines. But at the same time, if we have an event this March somewhere, we might put together, 5 or 10 boxes just to take with us.
Skip.
And that was
go ahead, Will.
And that was on one side. You did it with the EMH, right?
Yeah, we wanted to do it with a larger ring gauge but to dilute the kind of influence of the wrapper on the blend.
Skip, what do you have coming up next?
You mean in terms of cigars or in terms of?
In terms of
after this phone call, I plan on eating lunch.
Excellent. That's great. What do you plan on having for for cigars? What do you have in the works?
So the next thing, the things we came out with the show were, we came out with our first line extension for any of our portfolio. We've always had 5 sizes in Cro-Magnon and 4 sizes in Temperance. So at the show we came out with Mode 5, which is a 5x50 Perfecto in the Cro-Magnon blend. At the Outland Light Up Charlotte event, we announced and kind of previewed our first extension to the Arapiraca blend, which is called the Breach of the Peace, which is a 5x56, because people have been asking us for a larger cigar in the Intemperance line. So the pairs for those sizes, the Connecticut 5x56, which is called Brotherly Kindness, and the Mode 5 in the Aquitaine blend are both to follow also. So the Aquitaine Mode 5 will start showing up in a Perfecto sampler around Christmas, and it's going to have 8 cigars, 2 Faith, 2 Envy from the Intemperance line, 2 Cro-Magnon Mode 5s, and 2 Aquitaine Mode 5s. And then the Brotherly Kindness and the Breach of the Peace from Intemperance are going to start showing up in January or February after the break.
That's
So
excellent.
the only way you're
Go
going to
ahead,
be able to get that Aquitaine Mode 5 right now is in the sampler pack?
Yeah, until the boxes start coming out in July. I mean, in January and February.
Okay.
And then one more thing we're working on is we've had this idea to come out with a segundo or a short filler cigar that we're still working on, called the Weasel, but we haven't really figured out how to do that yet the right way. So we're still working on that, and then we have plans to start working on. We have bought the wrapper leaf and have a blend for the Neanderthal, which is our new brand coming out hopefully by IPCPR next year.
And what's
Is
the?
that-
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I've heard. Is that a Corojo you're working with on that?
Yeah, it's a really heavy, dark Corojo, ugly leaf that we got from Aganorsa, but it's like crazy flavor, and it's got a lot of nicotine as well. So we're working on the underlying blend for it, tweaking that still, because what we're finding is even though it's crazy super strong, in week 1. When we get out to like 7, 8 months, it's attenuated a lot, the nicotine in the wrapper. So it's probably going to be our first line where each individual Vitola will have a different proportion of the blend because of the way that the wrapper changes over time. So it's probably the hardest thing we've worked on since we started working on cigars. But it's probably easy for somebody like, Jose Blanco, but for us it's tough,
Will, did you have any final questions for Skip? I don't mean to cut it short. Of course, Skip, you're always welcome back. We focus very much on your blends, which I think are very unique and interesting, right down to the names. So, Will, I didn't know if you have any closing questions for Skip.
Yeah, and I know we are tight on time, but there's one more line that you've launched, Skip, which I've had an opportunity to sample, and that's the Craft 2013 Limited. Can you tell a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah, so Craft is actually our third brand, Cro-Magnon, Intemperance, and Craft, and the Neanderthal will be our fourth brand. Craft is we came out with for a couple of reasons. One, we wanted to solidify the intellectual property aspects of the word craft, because it's very synonymous with our business, and I started to hear more and more people stop using the word boutique and start using the word craft, which I never heard much before we existed, but it seems to be more and more common. I don't think we invented the word, but I wanted to make sure we had the brand out there first. So, and then we wanted to kind of put a product out there that represented what craft cigar making means for us. The first size that comes out this year is called the La Campana de Panama Soberana, and it's a Tabacchiato figurado. So it's made without using a mold. It's the name actually means the bell of Panama Soberana, and it's almost a trumpet or bell type, handbell type shape. And so we are very proud of that cigar for a lot of reasons. I don't know if you guys can see. Are we still on camera?
Your video's not showing up currently.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so it's a beautiful cigar, and I know Coop's got a couple of pictures of it, and but it's got 10 different tobaccos in the cigar, and it's it's not very strong. It's very nuanced, and it's got a sweetness to it that's unique to the other cigars that we have. And I think it's interesting because it's really, there's nothing in this cigar that's not in our other cigars, but it just shows kind of how different primings, different proportions, different used in different places of the cigar have a different impact on the flavor of the cigar.
It's a beautiful cigar. I have a few pictures on Cigar Coop, and phenomenal job on that. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks, brother.
Okay.
Excellent, Skip. Thank you very much for appearing on the Stogie Geek Show.
All right, man. I'm a big fan. I've always been a big fan of Coop, and I don't know that very many people. I mean, maybe the Half Full guys are kind of very similar, but they have 5 or 6 guys. Coop, but kind of by himself, has always done very, very thorough work on his site. And then, you guys have always been super entertaining, with the exception of this segment here. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just kind of worn out, man. I mean, I've been traveling so much, and
it was a serious interview, but we had a lot of stuff to cover in a short amount of time. So, like I said, you're always welcome to come back, Skip.
Bring you back another time and we'll laugh more. How about that?
Absolutely.
And drink.
Yeah, I would rather sit in the background and just make fun of Coop, and
Yeah.
Great. That sounds great.
so now we just got to exit.
Excellent. Skip, thank you very much. We're gonna
Enjoy your lunch.
take a short break. Come right back.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Mike.